Hi, this is Mr. Shumway. This video clip explains how to rearrange formulas to highlight a quantity of interest. For example, pressure times volume equals N times the Avogadro's number times the temperature. PV equals nRT. So P is pressure, V is volume, T is temperature, R is 8.31. N has to do with the number of molecules. So if we try to rearrange that thing, solve that for V to see what happens to the volume, the opposite of multiply by P is divide by P. So P divided by P is 1. 1 times V is V. V equals nRT over P. So looking at that equation, T goes up. The temperature increases, well, the volume will increase like a balloon. If it gets hot, it will expand. If it gets cold, it will contract. So those temperature and volume go together. And anyways, just that's one reason to solve an equation for one variable, so you can have that one variable the only thing on that side. When the pressure goes down, volume goes up. So we'll pull a vacuum in the vacuum jar and have the pressure around the balloon go down, and you'll see that the volume goes up. Okay, so if P goes up, what happens to V? If you increase the pressure, the volume would go down. So let's solve that for P. Well, if I want to get P all by itself, then I divide by V. So pressure is equal to N RT all over V. So anyways, if it's multiplying, if it's being multiplied by some variable, you divide to get rid of it. If it's dividing, you multiply to get rid of it. If it's adding, you subtract. If it's subtracting, you add. Hi, how are you? So when we have the equation like this, if the temperature goes up, we can see that the pressure would go up. So for example, you put a can in the fire, temperature goes up, pressure goes up, and if it can't expand, the volume can't change, it will break it, the container. It will explode. When Blue Man Dylan Seeley made his musical pipes several years ago, he probably used this equation. The frequency of the pipe is equal to the velocity of speed, the speed of sound in air, over 2 times the length of the pipe. So F is the frequency, the sound, to choose which sound you want to hear, and V is the speed of sound in air, and L is the length of the pipe. Well, he had to cut the length of the pipe, so he probably wanted to solve that equation for L. Well, let's try to get L all by itself. To get it out of the denominator, we do the opposite of divide. The denominator is divide, so we're going to multiply by L. Whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the, or whatever I do on the right, I have to do on the left. So this pair of L's cancel. Now I have L times F equals the volume over 2. I want L all by itself, so I want to get rid of the F that's multiplying, so I divide. Just increase the area for that divide to put the F underneath the V. So the length of the pipe is equal to the speed of sound divided by 2 times the frequency. So I choose the frequency and multiply it by 2. Divide the speed of sound by that number, and that will tell me how long to cut that pipe, and I can make a musical instrument. Well, here's an equation that we're familiar with, slope-intercept form of a linear equation. But let's say we want to isolate for x. I want the x all by itself. So I'm going to get rid of the minus 5 by adding 5. So y plus 5, is equal to 3x. The opposite of multiply by 3 is divide by 3. So x is equal to y plus 5 divided by 3. bx minus 6 equals 3 times 4 plus 2x. Solve that for x. Well, let's try to get all of the x terms together, but we need to multiply by 3 first, I believe. So let's do 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 2x is 6x. So now we have bx minus 6 is equal to 12 plus 6x. Well, let's get all the x terms on one side or the other. Maybe we could just subtract 6x from each side. So we would have bx minus 6x minus 6 equals 12. And so now that we have all the x terms on the left-hand side, let's get rid of the minus 6. Let's add 6. So because both terms on the left have an x in them, I could rewrite that as b minus 6 times x. The reason to write it like that is because now I can get the x all by itself. I can divide by what is being multiplied by. It's being multiplied by b minus 6, so we're going to divide by b minus 6. So that equation solved for x is 18 all over b minus 6. Well, you say that's not solving because that's not a number. That has a letter in it. And that's correct. So maybe solving wouldn't be the correct term. Maybe you'd say isolate that for x. Isolate the x variable. Anyways, sometimes you'll see it as solve it. So I just wanted you to know what to do if you run into that.